up YouTube? My name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. Asbo lives and breathes with his nice new exhaust. Trouble is he sounds a little bit asthmatic. So we are going to try and get it going a little bit better than it is at the minute. And I'm going to be using one of these, Colour Tune, Gunson's Colour Tune. And basically this is going to help us get the air fuel mixtures right. It looks pretty simple actually. Let me show you what you get in the box. Right, and so this is it. It's the 10mm one. Right, so crush washer. Let's put all this stuff in there. The crush washer. Little periscopey thing. That could be handy, especially if we have to run it with the tank on. And this is the doohickey that's interesting. So essentially this replaces your spark plug. In essence, screw an adapter on the top of it, and then your HT lead basically goes on here, spark plug lead. But this bit is clear in the middle. Don't know if you can see it. So the idea behind this is that you can actually see the burn. You can see the burn that's going on in the cylinder. What's that for? Don't know. I should probably read the instructions. But anyway, I don't know if you can see on this one. This is what you're basically going to be looking at. So what you're after is this tungsten blue. If it's yellow or orangey like this one, then basically it's too rich. If it's white, which is the other end of the scale, I'm surprised they haven't got a picture of it here actually. But if it's white, then it's too lean. And basically you can adjust the air fuel mixture until you get it like that, which apparently is a tungsten blue. So there you go. So essentially this is, are there any instructions? Oh yeah, there's instructions. We'll have a squint through that. Oh, a handbook. Awesome. We'll have a squint through and just make sure there's nothing weird or anything else going on that I need to know about. This I believe is just a periscope. So if it's, if the cylinder that you're checking is buried in the middle, you're not going to be able to look down on top of it. So you get this little periscopey thing and you can watch it in the mirror. Little brush to clean it out. And that's it, job's a good one. I don't know what that thing's for. What's that thing for? Let's have a look. Ooh, the science. There's science behind this. Right, I'm going to have a quick squint through this. I've got the basic principles of how you do it and all that stuff. I just want to make sure that I'm not doing anything wrong. Never used one of these before. However, I've seen them on YouTube and stuff. Andy used one. There's loads of people that have used them. And they all seem to think it's quite good. But basically, this is going to set the air fuel mixture at idle, as far as I get it. So essentially, you're going to be running on the pilot circuit mostly. Right, first things first. Got to warm it up and get it up to temperature. So open some doors. Because it's going to get foggy in here. Right, come on in, don't let me down. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. we'll do this on a side that you can see. If we do this cylinder, then I might end up shoving that periscopy thing in so you can see it on camera. If not, I'll just have to bring you in and have a look. And I can also get to the mixture screw down here. What I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to get it set up right on this one so I can get the colour burn that I want to get. And then what we'll do is we'll put that mixture sort of adjustment onto all the other carbs, and we'll give it another bash and see how she's running. Alright. Come on. Alright, so there's my plug. Well, I'm not sure you can see this, but that's my plug. That looks a bit grubby, doesn't it? Can you see that? I'm not sure. I'll try and do the zoomy thing so you can see what's what, but it does look a little bit on the grubby side. Found out what this little thing's for as well. It's an adapter. Basically, it just turns that size plug spanner into something a bit bigger. That's all it does. Right, so spark plug gap should be 0.6 to 0.7 mil. I'm just getting the crap off this basically. Right. 0.6, he goes in. Zero 0.7 doesn't. 0.63 just does. Right, so that'll do. So I'll do those on each of them. Getting back in the bike and we're there. Right, so we shove the little washer on. That's just going to fall off, isn't it? There we go. Alright, so the plug's in. We've got this little extension that goes on the top of it. Like that. Use that little periscopy thing. Yeah, let's use a little periscopy thing so you can see. Come on. And the HT lead just goes on the top of that, apparently. Right, hopefully you got to see that. I think the high tension, you know, it was playing havoc with the camera, it really was. But what I found is this little periscopy thing, that's junk. You can't see anything. You just have to have a proper peek down the the spark plug hole, so you can see what's what. But we do have a nice tungsten blue colour to it. It's not orange, it's not white, it's blue. I'm calling that done. I did tweak the mixtures just a tiny amount, maybe like 1/8 of a turn, but that was it. That's all that I adjusted. Yeah, so quite happy that the mixtures are as they should be now, which is sweet. So now I've just got to try and get this out and that little crush washer. That's going to be fun because that's just going to fall straight off. Really easy piece of kit to use though, really easy. I think it would be more difficult doing the inside cylinders without having all the top of it off. You know, cylinders 2 and 3, just because that periscope thing, it wasn't very clear. You couldn't really see what was going on because it's in 2 pieces. Come on. Yeah, it's in 2 pieces and they sort of overlap, so it blocks your field of view just a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. But that's it, a Gunson's colour tune. How much I pay for it? It was like 20 quid or so. It wasn't a lot. Was not a lot by any means. I see him. See, I knew the washer would come off. And it's bloody copper. But I am quite impressed with this actually. That's really good. I've gone through and I put the same setting that I had on this carburetor that we checked. Put it on all the other carbs, and then I've just gone and wound this in, you know, just to check that the air fuel mixture is right. That little periscope thing is useless. I didn't get on with that at all. So what I ended up doing is getting the phone whilst it was running, holding it in there and shooting the video, because I couldn't be bothered to take all the tank and that off again, and then just looking at the video, and it's all fine. They're all good. So I know the air fuel mixtures are sorted. We'll be using that again. I like that. Right, what's next? Ooh. It's carb sinking time. Right, haven't used this in a while. Right, so real cheap and nasty set of vacuum gauges. It'll be alright, it'll be alright. So yeah, we want to sink the carb. So the way that these work, because they're a CV carb, so essentially you open a butterfly on the intake side of the carb, and that causes a change in air pressure as it goes through the venturi in the middle of the carb. There's lower pressure on top of the diaphragm, that lifts the needle up, and away you go, you start fueling. But the trouble is you need to make sure that you're opening the butterfly valves at the same time and the same amount, and that's where these bad boys come in. So each of these is going to hook up to a vacuum port on the engine side, if you like, of the carb, and we'll be checking the vacuums on there. And basically the vacuum will change depending on how much the butterfly opens. That's a really bad explanation. I can't think of a better way of saying it. But basically you want the same vacuum in each of the carbs, so you get the same amount of fueling to each of the cylinders. Does that make sense? It does in my head. I really need a better way of explaining things. But that's all I'm doing. So I was going to be doing these with the tank off and one of them little auxiliary fuel tanks, just so you can get to it easier and stuff. However, that's coming from China, and it ain't here yet because the coronavirus hit. And the fact it's coming from China and it's delayed because of the coronavirus, unless it's stinking of bleach when it gets here, I'm not sure I want it. That one might just stay in the box. But anyway, I'm going to see if I can get all these. I should have enough wiggle room. I'm going to see if I can get these on there. The bike is warm. We have done the valve clearances, so we should be all right, I think. I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to see, hopefully you can. These little caps normally go over the vacuum port, which is this one here, and all I've done is I've plugged the hoses in onto each of the carbs. Now the fuel tap does actually run off one of those vacuum lines, so all I've done is I've taken the hoses to each of these ports, pulled the vacuum line for the gas tap off, and I've just set it on prime so the fuel is free flowing. So that really shouldn't be an issue. We're going to have fuel to run it anyway. It's going to need to be warmed up in order to check all this, and we have done valve clearances, which is really, really important. That needs to happen first. So that's it. We've got one line on each of the carbs. That goes up to the corresponding gauge, which I've got sitting up here. We'll warm it up and then we'll see how far out we are. I know we're going to be out, and it's probably going to be a right pain to adjust it with the tank in the way as well. But we shall see how we go. How hard can it be, eh? Right, so carb sinking. Yeah, this is going to be fun. It's been a while. What I was saying before, just a basic overview, is the throttle cable comes in, hooks up to this throttle linkage, and as you open the throttle, you open these butterflies. Okay, that allows more air to go into the carbs, which this is like a venturi, so it gets thinner as it goes through, and you get a low pressure area on top of the diaphragm, which is underneath here, and that low pressure area causes the diaphragm to raise up, and as it raises up, it pulls that floating needle here up, allowing more fuel to go into the engine and get burnt. Thing is, these butterflies all need to open at the same time and the same rate. That's why we're sinking carbs. The way you adjust it is you've basically got 3 screws. So there's a screw here, screw there, and a screw there. So all 4 carbs are all linked to one another, but this one is the master carburettor, if that makes sense. Yeah? So on the bike they sit sort of airbox this side, front of the box that side. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 and 4. And there's a couple of camps as far as the best way of doing this as well. So one camp says that everything is going to get tuned off this second carb, because that's the master one. That's the one that is actually controlled by the throttle cable. Okay. So one way of doing it is that you get number 1 carb as close to number 2 as you can, and then you basically work your way down the line doing one at a time. It's not exactly the way that I've done it in the past, but that's some people say that's the best way of doing it. The other way is to treat them as 2 different sets of carbs. So that's one set, this is another set. So regardless of where they are at the moment, you get these 2 set the same. All right, and you would do that by adjusting this adjustment screw between the 2 carbs. So you get 1 and 2 sorted, and then completely separately, and it doesn't matter what the value is, you get 3 and 4 sorted, so they're the same, and then you try and bring the 2 together by adjusting this middle screw. And that's the way that I've done it in the past. That's the way that I'm going to be doing it here. As you start tweaking stuff, the values will change. It will go in and out. Every adjustment that you make, you do have to give it the beans and then have a look at what the readings say. So, it is an awful lot of faffing about. The analog vacuum gauges that I've got aren't the best. They're not as accurate. I would love to get a digital set, because then you get a real number that you can look at, rather than the needle that tends to be bobbling about all over the place half the time, or a sticky valve or something like that. But that's what we've got to do. So that's the next job. Oh yeah, we're also not finished with these yet. Main jets live up in here. You get to them by taking the float bowls off. There aren't any numbers on these, so I don't know what they are. However, what I do know is that the exhaust isn't standard, and it's got a high flow air filter in it. Those main jets are going to have to change. So the pilot jet that lives up here is basically from idle up to about 25% throttle, after 25% throttle, you're mostly on the main jets, which is what the needle sits in. This needle actually passes through the main jet, okay? They're going to need to change because we've got an unrestricted exhaust system, which means it's going to run a little bit rich. So we are going to need to change them. So as standard, what it should have in here, which I haven't got a clue if it has or not, the main jet on cylinders 1 and 4 is 98, and 2 and 3, so that one is 98, 98. These two are 100. Okay, so basically I don't have access to a dyno at the minute, which is obviously the best way to set it up, because you can look at the gases coming out the exhaust and all sorts of other stuff and see what's going on with the fueling. But with the lockdown, the only dyno in town is shut. So what I do have though is a Spike, or Mr. David Abrahams, as his bank manager likes to call him. He's the owner proprietor of Cambridge Motorcycles, and he's the fella that used to build all my race engines when I was racing bikes. Brilliant mechanic. Really good. He built and designed and raced his own drag bike, funny bike, and he let me have a go on it at Santa Pod. That thing was mental. I think it did 0 to 100 in 60 feet or 1.2 seconds. That will quite happily scare the willies out of any mortal man. Did me, but it's bloody good fun. So anyway, he knows an awful lot about horsepower, and he's got a dyno, and he's been doing it for years, decades he's been doing it. He really knows his stuff. So I punted him a message saying, what do you reckon as far as jets and stuff goes? Because if you look on the web, there's all sorts of, you know, advice and, oh, this works really well and all this, that, and it's all at odds with one another. Whereas he built me some cracking engines, so I totally trust him. He basically said if it's an exhaust system and an air filter, and it's still got the air box on, basically to go 2 sizes up on the main jets, whatever they're supposed to be. All right, so that's what I'm going to be doing. He said if it was, if the air box had disappeared, then to block up the air bleed for the pilot, and then basically get it dynoed when you can to see what's what. Well, we're still running the airbox on this, so it's an easy one. I've just got to find out what the standard jets are, which obviously we now know, and then I'm just going to order some jets to, for all 4. I'm not going to reuse any of the jets because I don't know what they are. There's no markings on them at all. So we'll just get 4 jets, we'll whack them in the bottom, and we should be good. Carb Sinking doesn't care what the main jets are, basically. All you're doing is managing the airflow through the carb. If it's not fueled correctly, that isn't going to change the vacuum. So we can get this done before the jets turn up, and that'll all be good. But I thought I would throw it in there because it's worth knowing. You make any changes to exhaust system, taking airbox off, running pod filters, any of that stuff, you do have to rejet these. Get that done and we should be good. Right, let's get this sorted. I'm really not a big fan of these gauges. I would much rather have a digital set. It's just a truckload of faffing about. These little bleed valves, they're really sticky. Basically, if you wind them out, it's just a couple of O-rings on them. Hang on. There's a couple of O-rings on them, and you stick a little bit of rubber grease on them just to try and help things along, and it's just a seat that it sits in. But what I find is that as you do them up to stop the needles bouncing about all over the place, you want to take all that play out of it, so they're reasonably still. You get to the point where it's just kind of quivering, and you rev it and it's fine, and then it's either, well, I don't know what it is that causes it, but they just sort of seem to nip up all on their own. So you rev it and the needle moves and it sort of stays there and very slowly comes back again, whereas you want it to be quite responsive really. So you end up faffing about with these, and you get to the point where it's just quivering, you press it on the end, and that's enough to make it sort of bind up again. So I don't really like these ones. I mean, they do, and I've got it synced and I'm quite happy that it's synced, so that's all fine, but it's just a massive faff. And like I say, the easiest way that I've found of doing this is to treat them essentially as two different banks. I don't really hold with this, you know, do them all individually. I just find that takes me longer to do. So, but that's just me. You do what you want to do. I'm not telling you to do anything. Right, let's get these squirreled away, and then we can get on to the fun stuff. I want to find out how noisy it is. Yeah. Right, so Simon Rolls from Southwest Bikers, he's another gem, and he sent me this to have a play with. This is a dB meter. And basically you just use it to find out how noisy stuff is. How noisy am I? Max hold. So I can get it just through chatting. I'm up to 70.5 decibels. Is that loud? I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, we're going to fire the bike up with the different exhaust systems on it, and we're going to see how noisy stuff is. So what we've got to play with, well, we've got the we've got the can on it that's on it at the minute, that cheap and nasty one from Wish. We've also got this. It's either a Delcovic or Scorpion or something like that. You can see it's not very restrictive. We've also got a dB meter. So, and I've got a couple. Does that one fit? No, not really. Right, we won't be shoving that one in there then. But I just want to see how noisy it is. So we've got the Wish can, we've got this one, and we've got the Noisey Boy. Yeah. So we're going to have a little bit of a laugh, swap them out, and check it and see what's what. Right, this is it again with the Delcovic on, because now I know how to use this thing. Fast. Stick it on high, just cause. Max, there we go. Right. Tick over, it's 90. $113. Right, so if we, this is the can I'm probably going to be using. So if we shove a dB killer in the end of it again. Come on. There we go. Right, it's only in loose. Well, that'll do. Where's my thing? That's 85 on tick over. .9. 88.2 on tick over. .96 without the stupid DB killer in it. That's going to be well under the limit for Snetterton, well less noisy than my old Fireblade is, and that's what I'm going to run. It does sound quite good actually. They do make a bit of difference, not as much as I always thought these things were good for, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 decibels. Just, it does make a difference, but not masses. Right, we're in. Noisey Boy is back on the bike. This is going to be silly. 7,000 revs with that thing sitting on it. Come on. The key barrel on this is useless. Right. Look at it. Oh my God. Right. That's on tick over. Oh, come on. Why is it not doing it? Right, that's it then. Jobs are good, and I think I know what I'm going to run with. It's going to be the wish can, and it ain't going to have the DB killer in the end of it. However, I might put that in just for MOT, because the difference in noise is, you know, even though it doesn't read that much different on here, there is a difference when you stood next to it. So for the MOT, it's going to be as quiet as I can get it, and then once I've got my bit of paper, that's coming straight out and going straight in the bin. It was cool listening to Noisey Boy again. 123 decibels. It's ridiculous. You can't shout that loud. But yeah, anyway, Dill from work, he really wants that, so I'm going to give it to him. He can shove it on his Bandit and he can have his collar felt instead of me. But anyway, that's it. I'm still waiting on the clamp for the collector. And also did some digging, because there was a couple of comments that came through about, oh, you've got a twin seat, you're going to need to have rear pegs, which I don't really want rear pegs, but looking at the criteria, you do need rear pegs. Can I find a set of 95, 96 or Mark 1 rear peg? No. So I've got a set of 2000 ones coming. They're going to be different, but it looks like they just bolt on. So all I'll end up doing is welding on 4 tabs to the rear subframe. I'll bolt them on, again get it through the MOT, and then they're coming off. And well, they probably won't go in the bin. I will keep them about, just in case Aaron Indoors wants to come out for a bit of a giggle. But anyway, that's it. This close. The tank is back on again. Don't think that's going to need to come off anymore. So I've bolted all that down. I am going to get some jets for the carbs, because the colour tune only sets it at idle. And with that exhaust system and that air filtration, then you know we are going to need to up jet it a little bit over standard. Ain't got a clue what's in there at the minute, and I don't like running something that I don't know what it is. So we're just going to get some jets ordered, switch them out. That's a 5-minute job. Happy days. All the carbs are balanced. She seems to be running well. The only thing I would say is when the engine's hot, sometimes it takes a couple of goes to get it going. Dill was saying the same thing happens on his Bandit. I'm not sure if it's just a trait of them or what, but I'm going to look into that a little bit more. And that's it, we're pretty much there. Noisey Boy, he's funny. Right, that's it. That's where I'll call it for today. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Do hope you're staying safe. Staying safe. I did that last time. And we'll see you again next time. Laters!